Hello and welcome to Get a Grip on Rebates, brought to you by Light Efficient Design and their Solera Solar Lighting. We're highlighting today the Hybrid 365 LED Solar Area Light brought to you by Solera. This hybrid product is game-changing technology that leverages both solar and line voltage to power its super bright LED area lights, powering them 24/7. It has an intelligent control module that knows when to switch from cost-free solar power to line voltage only when its long life, 50-hour battery life is depleted. It's an all-in-one design, delivers high performance and ease of use and installation and adjustability. It's really unlike any other solar lighting that you have used in the past. So get your hands on a Hybrid 365 from Solera Solar Lighting and Light Efficient Design.
So, John, you ever been out with your lighting colleagues having drinks, talking shop, doing the thing, and somebody's talking about, you know, what's going on in lighting, and somebody pops up and says, "Hey, you got some numbers on that? You got some data?"
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about people are talking about how much of the market is left, how much they've been selling into the market. And they're like, I mean, we must have already hit 80% of the market on this, right? And that's the sort of deal, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was just out with some colleagues, and we're always throwing out those market transformation numbers. I mean, with the growth of LEDs, everybody thinks they know where the market's at, and they're always
Yeah.
throwing numbers. But where do those numbers come from? What is it? Just pull out of thin air,
Well, I
or
think
do we?
this is exactly
Go ahead.
this. We didn't know how we were going to tee it up exactly, but I think we got there. Where did these numbers come from? I think the vast majority of the time, people are pulling those numbers out from under their seats. Would be my guess.
Right.
And there's a lot of conjecture out
Absolutely.
there, right? Wouldn't it be cool if we had some sort of definitive primary source, right, that we could turn to? And by we, I don't mean like the intellectual inside class of like you got to pay to play, free to the public library system
Right. Right.
report.
Right,
It
right. And I
exists.
did I was sort of joking with you there, but it does exist. And, I'm going to tout our Northwest roots, John, but it exists particularly here in the Northwest in the form of the annual lighting survey of Northwest electrical distributors provided by the Bonneville Power Administration. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
it's a cool story, and it's something that's a bit of an oddball because when people sat down to sort of say we need to get sales data from distributors, everyone's like, that's going to be next to impossible. Nobody wants to share that data. And that's kind of what we run into a lot when we start asking people like, well, what's going into the market? People kind of clam up. But it was kind of cool. I, I had kind of forgotten about this thing, but it popped back up on my radar, and they have a decade's worth of data now on sales that have been happening, really full category lighting sales that have been happening in the Pacific Northwest. Which representative for the nation, I'm sure. And there's some cool stuff in here. So I was hoping we could dive in and talk about this today. The study is actually called the Northwest Electrical Distributors, the annual lighting survey. And I think there's some stuff
absolutely.
that you might want to know about.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Just to give a quick little background on the Bonneville Power Administration for those of you who are not out here in the Northwest and don't know who they are, the BPA, as we call it, is a power wholesaler. They generate and distribute most of the power here in the Northwest, not all, but most of it, and work directly with their utility customers to provide power and also to provide markets. Information that affects the power grid, and in this case, a lighting survey of Northwest distributors, so that their partner utilities will have some idea of what is actually happening in the lighting market. It's actually a pretty innovative report in terms of how they do it. They actually get distributor participation on this report. I have worked with distributors to get them to participate in this report? I know, John, you being that you're at Seattle City Light, you've worked with some distributors yourselves in trying to get them to participate in this report. And like John said, it's been 10 years that they've been gathering data. So they released in September the 2018 data, and they are currently compiling a report for 2019, which we probably won't see until end of year, if not early next year. So we did want to talk a little bit about what's here. So, John, right off the bat, why is this important for, one, our distributor partners, and two, the utilities that they're working with?
Yeah, I like how you broke it down like that, because, even though the utilities funding to have this work done, the distributors, they're direct partners in this, and it affects them too. So folks know, you talked about Bonneville Power here in the Pacific Northwest. They're a wholesale power provider. That's what this is all about. Energy efficiency is viewed as a power resource, and they have to look at it in the same way. And in the same way that they have to say, how many new power plants might we have to go build? They're also saying, how much lighting potential is out there? Lighting has been just head, shoulders, knees, and toes, the workhorse of just about every program across the entire country, across North America, where they're doing this. And,
right, and,
so
it's a reason our listeners are on this. They want to know how the utilities are supporting those programs, right?
Absolutely. And so this is like market intel from the source that's informing how saturated is the market, right? And so why does this matter to distributors? Well, everybody knows the market isn't one monolithic block. It's lots of different market segments. You got your down lights, you got your 4-foot linear tubes, right? You got your decorative lights, your track lights, your general purpose.
Right.
As you know, LED products, they're kind of at these different saturation points. If you're a distributor, you want to have some sort of general sense of, if my sales are slowing down, is it because this market's getting saturated, or is it because we're pushing the wrong product, or is it because my inside or outside sales team is getting complacent? Like, what's going on, right? Why are sales down? One of the things that really blew me away in this year's report is that they showed, not just with people pulling stuff out from under their seats on the third round after a long day at Light Fair, they showed definitively that LED lighting sales actually already crescendoed, in that in many market segments, their market sales are down across the board because of this reason. We are nearing a sort of ceiling where the low-hanging fruit, especially lamp market, has been largely saturated. If you're a distributor,
let me interrupt you there. Since you said ceiling, what does it matter if the market's saturated? Isn't it important, at least on retrofit programs, what's in the ceiling? As you mentioned ceiling. What's in the ceiling? When we're talking about retrofitting, if you're a distributor and you're doing a project, or you're quoting a project where it's a retrofit project, what does it matter if the market is LEDs? Is saturated LEDs, but what's in the building is still fluorescent or incandescent.
Linear fluorescent, for example, right? Yeah. I love where you're going with this. Okay, great question. So baselines, let's talk about it. We understand baselines, and this is how people should understand baselines. This is normal. Baselines, it's like, everybody gets, if it's new construction, it's probably going to be a code baseline. And if it's a retrofit, an existing building project, it's what's in the ceiling, right? That has been the status quo rule that has helped us, these programs be the huge forces they've been for the last decade. So why does it matter what is being sold into the market if what these distributors are able to take advantage of, and the reason there's these big incentives, is because they're replacing a T8, right? That's in the ceiling, or something else. The reason why is because baselines are actually a factor of either what's in the ceiling or codes, plus what is being sold into the system. And so let me tell you what I mean by that. And it's going to make sense. It's going to make sense to our audience on two different levels. it's going to make sense on like, okay, I get that, but I don't like it. But then when we're going to be like, think about it as a ratepayer or a taxpayer, that is how you want it to be. Okay, so here's how it is. Yes, you're going to replace that old T8 system that's been up in the ceiling for 10 years or however long, right? And you get to claim the full savings from those 32-watt bulbs that were up there. But the reality is that system wasn't going to be there for another 10 years. I mean, maybe some people, but by and large, looking at these market trends, we're able to say that lighting system is going to get upgraded before it completely fails. Okay. And when you have to go buy a new lighting system, you're not going to replace it with a T8 system. This market data tells us that you're going to go LED eventually. And so what we actually have is sort of this blend where we say you get to count most of what's in the ceiling, but we're discounting that because like we shouldn't have to pay full freight for it. And so, like I said, on the business level for a distributor, you might be like, oh man, that's what's cutting into my rebate. That's why I've been seeing TLED incentives drop down. But on the ratepayer side of it, as the person who's paying the electric bill, that's your utility being smart and not paying more than they have to get cost-effective energy savings. That's much cheaper than building a new power plant.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that. So let's go over some of the key things in this report. I think it's important, but let's talk about what's important in this. I think one of the things that really struck me is how transformed we are into LEDs, at least according to this report, for the in the commercial sector. Generally, it's looking like we've hit that crescendo, and we're going to start seeing projections of unit sales or actual unit sales dropping because of the saturation of LEDs. How does this affect us? I mean, what does this mean?
Yeah, I was really shocked by that as well. Just because I think in general, most of us don't have a sense of how big the market actually is. We know it's big and we feel what's happening right in front of us. But to see the data show that market sales have actually already peaked and across the board they're coming down, that really gave me a sense of like, oh, the market isn't like, the universe isn't infinitely expanding. There's a limit on this. If I was a distributor, and this report is available to the public, and friends of the show, reach out. We'll make sure we put you in touch with the right folks, or we can get it to you. I would be looking at these remaining market segments to get a sense of which ones still have potential and which ones might you want to proactively pivot away from now, right? Whether it's for how much stock you're carrying or just the fact that utility incentives for that stuff are probably going to be going away soon.
Right. There's an interesting note in here on market saturation, and the really looking at the decorative market, 83% drop in unit sales between 2015 2018. That's huge for one segment. It's not that way across the board, but it is that way for decorative lighting. We're seeing finally that the TLEDs have had a massive impact on the market. We're also seeing are we seeing other things that are highlighted here? What other piece of information can our distributors pull out, or our customer?
Yeah. I mean, hey, let me sharpen one of those. I think TLEDs on their own made up 50%. I think it was nearly 50% of all volume sales. Think about that. It's like you got TLEDs and then you got everything else. That's pretty crazy. And interesting. It was a little interesting to see, at least for me, because it's like it feels like we haven't been talking about linear fluorescence for like a decade now, right? I mean, doesn't that feel like so long ago? And yet it was just in this last report. So I know it's 2020, and this is the 2018 report, but it was just in this 2018 data set that LEDs actually surpassed the 4-foot linear fluorescent market, which was kind of crazy to me. And it's a testament to how freaking huge that market is, right? Like that is really the Pacific Ocean of the lighting market. All right.
Right. I do want to reiterate one thing though, important for our listeners out there, because you're not all here in the Northwest, even though that's where John and I are. That's where we've worked. This is specifically for the Northwest. We feel that the data is probably similar across the country, but there are going to be differences in how this data is playing out throughout, and that's why the Northwest is really unique in this. And so I did want to make sure you guys understood that we're not talking about U.S. sales. We are talking specifically about the Northwest market. But anyway, one thing, one thing I wanted to cover on this is controls. If you're looking at the report, tiny little portion of sales so far have been controls. You and I have talked quite a bit about controls. We both feel like that's the future of utility programs in the lighting space. What are we getting any indication from this report about where controls are going to play?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And I'm not saying I've got it completely figured out here, but there does seem to be such a disconnect, like a cognitive dissonance between not just how much utility people talk about controls, like it makes sense to me. Utility people are pushing controls, the savings, but industry has been just going hard for controls the last couple of years, and yet they're like 1% of sales by volume. It is just this crazy small number compared to the overall sales volume of what else is happening out there. And, as a non-objective observer, I feel like we are like remarkably close to this tipping point that's going to happen because of how controls interfaces on like our phones and tablets are making this whole thing so much easier. But it really feels like if you're reading this report and you're saying, all these markets are saturated. And then you're like, what market isn't saturated? It's this controls market.
Right. Absolutely.
It just screams at you throughout the report.
Right. Absolutely. Well, John, we could probably talk forever about this report. It's actually only 9 pages long. It's not long at all. But there's a ton of information, lots of infographics. I definitely suggest that anybody out there who's interested get their hands on it. You can probably get it from the BPA website. I haven't checked, but definitely you can reach out to the show if you want it. Also, did want to let our distributor listeners out there know that if you are in the Northwest and you're not participating in this program, both John and I can get you in touch with those people who are putting this program together, so that your data can get included and that you can actually get some extra insights yourself into what's happening. The BPA does offer some market analysis based out of this for their distributor partners. So, like I said, John, we could probably talk forever. Is there any last thoughts about this report you want to put out there?
Well, I think we talk a lot about how the trade allies, the contractors, and all those folks are the partners in getting the job done. This is really a phenomenal example of distributors and this really integral role that they play, not just pushing efficient product through and supporting it that way, but how the data that they can provide really helps inform these utility programs, so that they're going to change, but this helps the utility mature the programs and keep them cost effective and keep them going strong.
Yeah, absolutely. You always say it better than me. John, always good to see you. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll talk soon.
Thanks a lot. See you guys later.
Thanks again to our sponsor, Light Efficient Design. Light Efficient Design is bringing you the Solera Solar Lighting Hybrid 365 Solar Area Lights. Get your hands on one of those innovative solar lights.